Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, I hope everyone had a great weekend and enjoyed themselves over the past 2 days. Here in the United States, everyone is getting ready for the marvelous Thanksgiving holiday, where we can gorge on hams and turkeys and all other sorts of accoutrements. But again, today we're going to continue our coverage of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia. And before I start, as you can see from my map, and I've used this on several occasions, first I want to kind of explain or try to explain what you are looking at. So again, from the map view here, you're looking at the Tigray region, a little bit of some of the northern Amhara region, and to the north obviously is Eritrea. But the green area, everything in green, is areas that are currently controlled by the Tigrayan Defense Forces or the Tigray region. The stuff in the blue is allegedly controlled by Eritrean forces. The stuff in the gray, Amhara regional militias. The stuff in the red is under the control of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the Abiy loyalists, the federal forces, and then the stuff that is mixed is obviously either mutually controlled. So, for instance, Debre, this map would allege that both the ENDF and Amhara regional militias are present in Debre. And then, obviously, the yellow is the forces of the increasingly powerful Oromo Liberation Army. And the stuff that is blinking, where obviously you would have the OLA in the red, obviously those two forces are adversaries and they blink. That alleged that area is contested and there is active fighting going on for that town or city. So this map is relatively correct. It is not completely correct. There are times where there are errors on it, but it gives you a good idea of what is happening inside of the former state of Ethiopia, and you can really kind of get a grasp on why the Military and Foreign Affairs Network calls it the former state of Ethiopia. But back to the current update on the conflict. Again, we continue to receive reports that the Tigrayan Defense Forces continue to move south along the A2 highway. As we had talked about yesterday, Shia Robot has been taken by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, and that town is fully under the control of a combined forces unit of the Oromo Liberation Army and the Tigrayan Defense Forces. To the south of Shia Robot, there is now reports of incredibly intense fighting occurring in the area of Debre, Sina. I had talked about this in previous videos, how Debre Sina could be a defining point in this conflict. Now, I would also say Dese and Kombolcha were definitely defining points in the conflict, but the absolute defining point would obviously be the seizure of Debre Sina, the key terrain feature that leads to the Debre Berhan Plateau, and then obviously possibly the seizure of Debre Berhan would really start to put the nail in the proverbial coffin of the Abiy loyalist regime. And as you can see from the map, Debre Berhan is almost circumvented. There are Oromo Liberation Army forces to the southwest of Debre Berhan, and obviously to the north and northeast there are huge amounts of forces from the Tigrayan Defense Forces. There are now reports of tens of thousands of TDF personnel that are now rapidly moving from Dese, north of Dese, Kombolcha, south to staging areas near Shia Robot, near the town of Dagalo. And again, significant movements of Tigrayan Defense Forces. There's also heavy activity of the Oromo Liberation Army, and with these forces that are in between the Tigrayan Defense Forces again in green, and into the southwest, you can see areas that are either besieged or under the control of the Oromo Liberation Army. And then in between, you kind of have this pocket of a mixed Amhara regional militias and the remnants of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. So a very, very precarious situation for the Abiy loyalists, and then obviously the Amhara regional militias. It's very possible at this point we're starting to see the Amhara regional militias trying to withdraw from some of these areas and strengthen their position near Bahir Dar, Gondar, and kind of the power base of the Amhara region, and eventually that area will have to be protected if and when Addis Ababa is seized, because obviously we could expect a military operation into the southern Amhara region and quite possibly the northern Amhara region to fully render a capitulation of the Amhara region in this ongoing conflict. But again, that's getting the cart before the horse. Right now, we're looking at the fighting that is taking place southwest of Shia Robot, and the major fighting that is going to probably occur near Debre Center, Debre Berhan, and then the final prize, so to speak, that could in fact end the regime of Abiy Ahmed, and that would be the operation to seize control of Addis Ababa. Obviously, it would probably be a joint operation with the Oromo Liberation Army and the Tigrayan Defense Forces. We would probably also see a fairly quick move to seize the major Ethiopian National Defense Forces air base located here just southeast of Bishoftu Harar Meda Airport. And again, we estimate there are drones, newly acquired drones, operating from Harar Meda Airport, as well as most of the Su-27s that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces possess are also operating out of that airbase as well. But again, just to the northeast and north and northwest is the Oromo Liberation Army, and moving south and southwest are major elements of the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Again, tens of thousands of TDF personnel are now moving towards Debre Sina, towards Debre Berhan, towards other cities such as Rema, such as this town here is Mergana, that the TDF will eventually look to seize control over. But again, very large-scale operations, very intense fighting is underway. Again, we had talked about the drone strike yesterday that occurred sometime at night, and it was a strike upon an individual leadership target inside of Mekelle. That leadership decapitation strike apparently was unsuccessful, but still gives you an idea that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the Abiy loyalists, are still looking to, in an attempt to decapitate some of the key leadership elements of the Tigrayan Defense Forces as the conflict continued. I'd also talked about the possible introduction of outside forces, such as the Russian Federation or even China. Now, we do know that Russian contractors are on the ground. There are Russian contractors that assist the Ethiopian Federal Forces really in the repair of some of its self-propelled artillery weapon systems. And then obviously, we know the TOS-1 weapon system is on the ground too, and we believe that contractors were there to assist the Ethiopian Federal Forces in the deployment of that TOS-1 thermobaric weapon system. More likely than not, the contract group, the PMCs, the paramilitary contractors that are on the ground, is a group known as Wagner. Again, some people mispronounce it as Wagner, W-A-G-N-E-R. The group is the group Wagner. This group is heavily supported by the Russian Federation. The reason that the entity is called Wagner is Lieutenant Colonel Utkin, who Utkin is the key leader of Wagner, while he was with I believe it was the second Spetsnaz brigade of the Russian Federation. He was a lieutenant colonel. He commanded a detachment of Spetsnaz forces, which is basically a battalion-sized element, understrength battalion. And his call sign was Wagner because he much appreciated the music of Wagner, the famous composer that was also Adolf Hitler's favorite composer as well. But that is the kind of the background behind Wagner and why it's called Wagner. But again, those personnel obviously could be on the ground. So to give you a rough idea, there are roughly 1,000 Wagner forces operating in the Central African Republic at a cost of $10 million per month. So 1,000 having 1,000 ex-Russian Spetsnaz and other military personnel would cost the corresponding government roughly $10 million a month to purchase. Are we going to see the introduction of more possible Wagner personnel to try and stem the tide of the Tigrayan Defense Forces, stem the tide of the Oromo Liberation Army? It's possible. Again, Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation simply look to obtain allies that the United States cannot. And obviously, having a strategic ally possibly in the Horn of Africa would obviously benefit the Russian Federation. And I would not doubt to see that we could see continued forces of the Russian Federation continue to enter the former state of Ethiopia to help prop up the Abiy Ahmed regime, especially if certain mineral guarantees and mining guarantees were given, and certain basing contracts were also given to the Russian Federation. Obviously, that is occurring in other parts of the world, and we could see it happen inside of Ethiopia. Now, would that change the course of the conflict with just the introduction of Wagner resources? But again, you have to understand that when you see Wagner being introduced into a nation state, and you start to see kinetic operations by Wagner, that is usually a sign that the Russian state is fully behind that both the organization of Wagner and that nation state by whatever means they are using to defend itself. But again, we'll see how that plays out. There are contractors there. Are they being used in direct action roles? Not yet. But stay tuned. That could change as desperation starts to set in on the ground in Addis Ababa with the Abiy Ahmed regime, and we'll watch that very, very closely. And then obviously you have China as well, that would love to get its foothold inside of Ethiopia, and that could be another possibility, especially as the regime looks to fall. If you hearken back to the Syrian civil war, the Assad regime was very close to getting ready to being quite literally militarily defeated until the Russian Federation joined the fray and was able to turn the tide, so to speak. Could we see that? Possibly. Is it likely? I would say not likely as of yet, but again, money talks, so natural resources and mining rights as well. But we'll see what happens. But again, in closing, there continues to be significant, and now what I would define as fairly rapid advances, not just near Shia but in other areas of the country. Continue to watch the operations of the Oromo Liberation Army to the north and northwest of Addis Ababa. Things could happen very quickly in regards to those forces. And then again, as always, we will continue to monitor the situation and report as we document the fall of the Abiy Ahmed regime. Have a great day, everybody.